see UFC bringing forth like what they really want without the drama. A lot of people I know, they've been really going over to the UFC now. They're becoming MMA heads, all because of these certain things that go on in boxing. It's like every time I talk to people about certain decisions that go on in boxing, as far as like, outpricing themselves, or as far as like bad decisions in boxing, robberies, people always say, that's why I don't watch boxing anymore. They always say, that's why I can't stand the sport. I'm watching MMA, at least we get in the fights we want, so I can't really say nothing to defend it, and like I said, it's irritating, especially like the topics I want to talk about, they all came back to back to back to back to back, so it gets irritating to me that I have to kind of explain this to boxing fans all the time, like, why I still watch it though. But when I talk about this stuff, I still am going to try to look at the positive here. I still want to look at the positive. Like, I know, like I said, not everything is going to be positive. And that's why I like to talk about everything in boxing, whatever it is, So I want to bring up the negative, but I still want to say we can look at the bright side here too, because hopefully there will be a bright side. The more and more, people like me and other fans and other podcasters kind of talk about it, they kind of can help bring forth the BS in boxing, So the things I want to talk about, first of all, like I said, they're not new to boxing. They happen many a time, as far as like coming in overweight, fighters outpricing themselves and not really knowing their worth, thinking they're worth more than they are. And of course, robberies, like I brought up, robberies in boxing. It's kind of a controversial topic because, not everything is a robbery. I've talked about what a robbery is before in boxing, and I'll bring that up again. But, it is one of the biggest things that push people away from boxing, and I've talked to some people that think that, they need more judges. They need more, even myself and other people, they say that they need more like experienced fighters to become judges, people that really have their hands in the sport to actually be able to judge a fight, so all of that stuff I just kind of want to go back and talk about because they all apply to everything that happened, over the past couple of weeks in boxing. Because first up, David Benevidaz, I want to talk about that. He came in overweight, lost his title for a second time, and he lost his title, but he's still undefeated, which is crazy, so he's losing his title to himself every single time. So that lets you know who his worst enemy is. And second topic I want to talk about, of course, Vasyl Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez. It's good news that the fight is going down. The fight is now scheduled, but the lead up to it was kind of irritating. Once again, I mean, the trash talk is cool. The drama and the beef is cool. The bad blood that they build up is cool. But I didn't like the fact that the fight was in jeopardy because Teofimo wanted to outprice himself. He felt he was worth more than he was. And then that kind of put the fight in jeopardy even happen. So that's something I want to talk about. And last up, of course, robberies pertaining to Romero versus Jackson Marinez, and like I said, I did a post-fight analysis of this and why I felt it was a robbery. So we'll go in on that a little bit more. So like I said, make sure y'all subscribe here, Combo Breaker 99, and subscribe to the Jab Effect as well if y'all want more boxing talk. But yeah, man, first up, David Benevidaz. Of course, he made easy work last Saturday of Romero Angulo. He was able to score a TKO over Romero Angulo. And this would have been another title defense of his WBC title. But, of course, as you know, he lost the title on the scales for coming in overweight. It was like 170 or 171, something like that, And, he's addressed him coming in overweight. He's been on some interviews and he's talked about, how he's let the fans down. He's disappointed in himself. And, my thoughts on the whole situation is like, yeah, I know this is his first time losing the title because of weight issues, and that's not a problem. That's not really the problem here, but it's the fashion that he continues to lose his titles, because this is the second time, this is the second time he's lost the title to himself. So this, like I said, really lets you know who his worst enemy is. It's him. First time around, he lost his title for failing a drug test, or the cocaine, they said, so that lets you know that I know he's still a young fighter. He's still going through different things, even still a young man and still experience different things. But once you become a champion and you go on the TV, you become an entertainer, you have all eyes on you. You know what I mean? And when you think about it, okay, you can say you don't care what people think about you. Oh, I don't care. People think, I'm eating all the time. I come in overweight or I'm on drugs or whatever, but that's going to mess up your money. Let's just get right down to it. That's going to mess up on your marketing and type of champion that you want to be. It might even mess it up for you even fighting for a belt again. When you think about it, WBC, if they say, okay, this is 2 times you lost the title to yourself, shoot, we might not let you fight for the title, for a 3rd time because, you continue to disrespect the sport by not staying dedicated, because both of his issues all come down to dedication and discipline. You know what I mean? So, and I think he understands that now because, when you think about it, he went on the air to say that he has his own gym, but he also stated that he had trouble losing the last few pounds. I mean, if that's something that he's always had trouble with, he should already have like an alternative. He should already say, okay, if I don't have access to this, like you said, like a sauna, for example, and a couple other things on how to lose weight, that's where you have alternatives. You're the champion now. You have money, and you should be dedicated to always having somebody in your corner to watch your body, and not only somebody else but yourself. But you should always have somebody saying, okay, if we can't use the sauna, make sure you have that suit on so you can do your running or whatever. We'll whip up a sauna for you. Hell, I make my own sauna in the bathroom sometimes. I like throw a couple heaters in there. And when I need to sweat or fever out, I put those heaters all over the bathroom. And then I just sit in there for a couple hours and I sweat it out, So, or go sit in a hot car, just go sit in a hot car. Anything that can give you like an equivalent to a sauna in the last minute. Like if you got to lose like 2 or 3 pounds, that shouldn't be hard. Like go jump in a hot car, go park wherever you're at. It's real hot right now. So yeah, just go sit in the car for a while and I'm sure you can lose that weight. So I just feel like he wasn't really taking the full on initiative to lose that weight. I think there came a point where he said, maybe it'll be okay. Or maybe I was just like, I don't want to go through this last little bit of time to really kill myself, so that's how I felt about that. I just felt like he should have been really looking at more alternatives on losing weight, especially in his situation. If he knew in the beginning, like he always kind of killed himself to make super middleweight, that should have told him I got to be on this next thing I want to talk about, a stricter diet. So, leading up to this fight, he should know that, let's say in the past, he's always made 168, right? So now, but at the same time, he killed himself to make it. Maybe he's felt like, I'm really killing myself to make this weight, but I'm making it. But there might come a time when I can't make it. That's telling him right there that there may be something in his diet that he needs to cut out. There might be something in his and what he eats leading up to fights and in fight camp that's telling him, hey, maybe I don't need that anymore. Maybe I need to cut that out. Maybe we need to work in something else that's going to help me stay closer to my fight weight. Especially when you're his age, Benevidaz, even Bernard Hopkins said it, whenever you're dedicated to the sport and you're already a champion, you really need to stay on weight your whole career, And in no way does that sound harsh, because if you dedicate yourself to the sport, that's one of the hard things about it. But that's one of the things that you're dedicating yourself to, that you want to stay close to the weight that you want to fight at all times. If you fight at welterweight, you want to be in that. You want to be in that, to me, 150, 151 realm at all times. Hell, you want to be around 148 to me. You know what I mean? So Floyd, when he fought at 147, he was always in that realm. He didn't make it hard for himself where, okay, we have fight camp coming up, I got to shed 20 pounds. Then I made weight for this fight. Fight's over. Gain that weight back, and then you go through the whole thing. No, like when you have a belt and this is your career, you got to continue to keep that weight in the same realm. So the best way to do that without killing yourself, to me, would be to really be on a strict diet. I really feel like he needs to be stricter on his diet right now, because, even going back to what I was saying as far as him saying he had no sauna, well, I really feel like when it comes down to that sauna, he needs to lose a few pounds. Like I said, he could just go run by then. If his diet was stricter, he might just come down to having to lose 2 pounds. Hey, you could find a way to do it easier by just go running, really sweat it out that way. So, again, like he said, he did, take blame for these issues, but at the same time, a guy that owns a gym, I feel like, y'all should have some type of alternative. Y'all should have some type of way to shed that weight fast, especially when, fight is coming up, weigh-ins coming up. I think it just came down to the last minute where they didn't want to do it, and maybe he felt like he was killing himself to that. So killing himself leading up to that weigh-in. So that leads me to my next thing. Move up. Maybe at this point, David Benevidaz should just move up. But I know in an interview, he said that he's going to continue to stay at super middleweight because I know there's fights he wants. But at the same time, I mean, if you're going to be killing your body and you're not going to make the weight, just go ahead and take a chance at light heavyweight. Because, shoot, when I see him fight, I'm like, dude, this dude could be a light heavyweight. I'm like, looking at him now, I'm like, look at the size of him. He definitely has the style to handle some of the light heavyweights now. And he definitely has punching power. I'm sure if he went up in weight, he might be a little bit stronger, so that's another option, just to say, I'm tired of making it. I'm tired of trying to make this weight. Let me go ahead and do my thing in light heavyweight. Because again, I know he said this was the first time he missed weight, but the question is he killing himself those other times that he really did make weight? You know what I mean? Like, could his performance be a little bit better if he was at 175? So I'm just saying, that's just out there. It's just an option because I think that some of these guys, even I see it in MMA sometimes, when they kill themselves, they're really taking away some advantage that they could have in the octagon or in the ring. They're taking away their strength. They could be really taking away some of their brain cells. Because like killing themselves like this, it's going to really deplete a lot of things in them. Not just fat, not just the muscle off their body. It's going to mess with their reflexes too, and just recovery time and durability taking punches. But like I said, overall with David Benevidaz, I like him as a fighter. I think he's a fan friendly fighter with his the type of style he brings to the ring. But I'm hoping moving forward into the future, he kind of learns from this. And if he wants to get that belt back, I feel like now, I think he should fight a title eliminator, honestly, just to kind of teach him a lesson. I think that's the best way for these young champions to learn that, not everything is going to be given to you, or not everything is going to be a slap on the wrist. Like, you can't be suspended for, if you can't be suspended for coming in overweight, then let's say, all right, you have to fight another title eliminator before you get this title again. You're not just going to make weight on your next fight and fight for the title again. But, I don't know. That's just me. But I know some recent news I heard Canelo, he's trying to fight for this open WBC title now, this vacant WBC title now. And he was trying to choose, I can't even remember what was the opponent's name, Vladimir or something like that. And I don't even think they're having that, And that's honest truth, man. I mean, if Canelo wants to fight for that belt, I do believe it should be the prior owner to the belt, which is David Benevidaz. But at the moment, like I said, I'd rather see David Benevidaz, just take his punishment and fight a title eliminator again. I mean, let me know what y'all think about that in the comment section. Agree or disagree with me, that's cool. But next topic, man, Vasyl Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez. The fight's now scheduled for October 17th. Original date, I remember reading somewhere it was going to be October 3rd, but, they moved it to October 17th, I guess, to kind of stretch it out and make sure all that money situation was right. But, everything is good now. So now, Lopez, he gets to take on Lomachenko like he's been saying he's wanted, but he almost put the fight in jeopardy, like I said. He almost put it in jeopardy as far as trying to outprice himself, because, originally he was getting 1.2 million. He wanted $2 million, and negotiations kind of came to a standstill until Lomachenko put up about what did I say, 800,000 or 600,000. So now Lomachenko's getting 2.6 and he's getting 2 million. So because originally it was 800,000 because originally Lomachenko was getting 3.4 million. Yeah, he was getting 3.4 million, and 1.2 was going to Lopez. So 800,000 over to him would give him 2.6. Yeah. So now that that's all settled, the fight is going down. And like I said, I'm not like the biggest Lomachenko fan, but I had to respect Lomachenko whenever, he was able to do this and just say, this is how bad I want to fight you. This is how bad I want to beat you. I'm paying you now so I can give you the ass whoop. You know what I mean? That's how bad he wanted to do it. You know, he said, okay, you're really trying to outprice yourself out of a fight. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and, hush you up, give you this money, and I'll meet you in the ring on October 17th so we can go ahead and get this done. I mean, that's how champions are supposed to do it. You know, champions, whenever there's an opportunity in front of them, they're supposed to just take it, and I feel like Teofimo Lopez kind of pushing this out saying, oh, I'm worth $2 million and I never had like $1 million payday before and I never had more than one belt, and the casual fan's not going to know everybody on my resume, but yet I won all this money. I just felt like he was just kind of out of line with this. Teofimo, this is a big opportunity for him. It's just like some of these other guys out there, when they win a couple fights and they were already saying, I want Mayweather, I want, I want the champion. They're not really putting in the hard work. Like Teofimo Lopez, okay, he put in the hard work up to a degree. You beat Richard Comey, won the IBF title, and now you're getting that big opportunity against Lomachenko for a good amount of money for what you're worth, but you're going to outprice yourself now. Now you're going to kill that fight by outpricing yourself, trying to say, oh, man, I need this much money for that type of fight. Well, this ain't even like a Titan versus Titan fight. It's a champion versus champion, but this is one of those young, confident, trash-talking lions versus the natural, mature, more technical, faster boxer. That's all this is. You know what I mean? It's a good fight, but it's not like a Mayweather Pacquiao. It's not like a Wilder Fury or Wilder Joshua or Fury Joshua type of fight. You know what I mean? Like, this is a unification fight, but it's not on that type of level. Teofimo, he's still trying to make a name for himself by beating somebody like Lomachenko. And that's how he has to see it. That's what I'm saying. Like, when guys see these opportunities, they can't blow it by, again, being their own enemy, by letting greed take over them. They got to take that time to say, okay, let me cherish this opportunity I'm getting and make a name for myself by beating it, not by trying to outshine him, or trying to say I'm worth this much. If you ain't got a leg to stand on, you say you're worth this much by dishing out ass whoopings. That's what this is. This is boxing. You get I don't care what generation of boxing it is, it never changes. I don't care if social media is a bigger part of boxing as far as promotion, but ass whoopings is how you should be measured in boxing. Not just ass whoopings, but whose ass you whooped. You know what I mean? And I don't necessarily mean knockouts. I just mean who you can beat in the ring. It all comes down to top quality opponents. And right now, Richard Comey is like the really, really serious opponent that Teofimo has on his record. The names all go to Lomachenko right now. So he is worth the $3.4 million he's getting. And Loma and Lopez, he's worth the 1.2. But like I said, he was the bigger man and decided to give him part of his money. But with all that aside, I do have to say that this is a good fight. It's one of the more significant fights that we're getting of this year. It could definitely be fight of the year. I mean, this year is almost over, and we don't have too many more big fights going down. But it makes a lot of sense. It's one of the significant fights because it's a unification fight, and like I said, it's the young lion ready to go in there and try to retire the more experienced veteran in Lomachenko. But it could be the fight where the more experienced veteran wants to just school the young brash talking lion, so that's the angle of this type of fight that makes it exciting. It's not always Titan versus Titan. It could be, like I said, old head versus young head, old lion versus young lion. And I think those type of fights are they can be just as exciting to the hardcore fan, not necessarily to the casual fan, so I'm looking forward to this fight, right now. And I think style-wise, it's really going to come down to – I am going to do a breakdown of this when we get closer to the fight. But when you really look at it in a technical aspect, it's really going to come down to IQ in this one. IQ and drive. It's something that Lomachenko, he's never really lacked in his fight is drive. He's been down before. He's been injured in fights. And, there's times he's looked slower, but he's always stayed in a fight. He's always kept the same momentum and found some way to win. And that's what makes champions, whether it's a boring decision or, it's constant boxing from a distance. They're always looking for a way to win, and that's what counts, you know. And we're gonna see if Teofimo Lopez has a few of those attributes in his style, because you know he's more of a precision puncher. You know, he can box a little bit too, but we know that for a fact Teofimo Lopez can't box on the level of a Vasyl Lomachenko. So we're gonna see if he can outlast somebody like Lomachenko and outwit him. You know, we know he doesn't have the same angles and the same footwork and the speed, but we want to see if he has those wits about him, you know, those wits to kind of outsmart Loma and out tough him in certain situations and, you know, start landing hard shots on him. You know, that can really, we want to see if he can blind Loma in some type of way with his movement, you know, and his presence, to see if he can really get in there and then land something big and say, okay, lights out Lomachenko, you know, because that's the one thing a lot of people hit me up to, you know, even on Facebook and Instagram. They say, you know, shoot, Teofimo Lopez only has a puncher's chance, which is honest, you know what I mean? Like, unless Lomachenko just slows down overnight and, you know, the legs are gone and, you know, the timing is off, then maybe Teofimo Lopez could put on like a systematic beating with his timing from there, you know, but I don't really see that happening right now. You know, like I said, I think Loma's going to really show up for this fight. And I think he's, you know, really preparing for this fight. And the one key to that was he was showing you that, hey, you can have part of my purse. You know, he was willing to do that. You know, he can have part of my purse. I just want to get this fight over with. You know, I just want to get another belt to my collection. You know, so all of that, like I said, is good build up. You know, I just didn't like the overpricing, you know, where it almost put the fight in jeopardy. But another thing about this fight, you know, it's what boxing needs. You know, everything else aside, is like I said, as far as like the money thing, it's what boxing needs. It's time when we say, okay, I got a belt at 135. I got 2 or 3 belts at 135. There's nobody else we should see. You know, forget the mandatories. You know, there's nobody else we should see. We should be in there fighting. You know, we should be in there throwing down, because I can't say I'm the best man at 135 when somebody else has a belt. And, you know, the other guy should be saying, you know, I can't sleep at night knowing this other guy has 4 or 5 belts, you know, so, hey, come see me. You know, that's what it's all about. And I feel like this is what we need more in boxing. You know, we need to start getting closer and closer to always having just that one champion, one face, one name in each division. You know, it's cool to have the sanctioning bodies, but at the same time, it's cool to see that one champion. It's more satisfying to see that one champion with all the titles around his waist or around his shoulders or whatever. You know what I mean? So this fight hopefully leads to that. You know, of course, this ain't for the WBC belt, because, you know, I think Loma has the franchise belt. So Devin Haney, he'll have that last belt to complete that collection. So hopefully this leads to like a full-on unification between, you know, all these guys, Lopez, Haney, and Lomachenko. But yeah, like I said, I like this fight. You know, I like this fight a lot. Let me know in the comment section what y'all think. You know, tell me who you think is going to win this fight early. You think it's going to be Lopez or Lomachenko? Do you think Lopez can retire Lomachenko? But early look right now, I can tell you right now, I don't think that Lopez is going to have the firepower. I think, but let me put this: he has the firepower, but I don't think he's going to have precision to land that big shot that's going to hurt Lomachenko. Because I do feel like Loma's going to come in there with the IQ to know to stay away from the big right hand, stay away from that left hook. He's going to know how to roll and take away from these punches. Unless he gets old overnight, and unless Lopez really can devote to being the dog for 12 rounds or however long it takes, then Lopez is not going to get the knockout. You know, he's not going to get the knockout. And I'm going to break that down, like I said, as we get close to this fight, you know, when I do my technical breakdown and prediction. But yeah, like I said, let me know, guys, in the comments section. And yeah, man, next topic, Rolly Romero versus Jackson Marinez. You know, I did a post-fight analysis video of this fight, and I gave you my thoughts on this situation. And, you know, like I said, Romero, he was able to pull out a decision. I think it was more like he was able to let the judges do the work and give him that decision in this one. You know, I'm just being honest, you know, because it's not the first and last time this will happen, but it really, like I said, it's really pushing people away from boxing. I think the more and more you have gift decisions like this, and then you also have the option to go watch UFC. Of course, there's BS decisions in UFC, but when it comes down to fights people want, they're gonna go with that choice. So I feel like as long as we have the UFC and then you continue to make these gift decisions and BS decisions in boxing, people are going to go to the UFC. Slowly, they're going to go. Because, I've talked to a few people about some of the past BS decisions in the past, like the at Franchon Cruz fight. There was a couple other fights too, that escape my mind right now. And, people were just like, that's why I'm not watching boxing. I turned it off after that. They don't even want to finish the card anymore. And this was another case. This was another case. Like when I go back and read YouTube comments, looking at the highlights of this fight, that was all people could say was this fight was robbery. And I've said it before, like I'm very careful about what I call a robbery, especially when it's a very, very close fight and it looks like both guys are really putting in the work. I can say that there's sometimes whenever I see my favorite fighter behind on the card and he might get the decision, then I might say, or he might not get the decision. And then I say, oh, that was robbery. But then I catch myself, I try to catch myself and say, maybe the other guy did what he had to do. I feel like maybe he pulled it out in the judge's eyes, especially when it's like razor thin. If it's like a split decision or majority decision, then I can kind of say, okay, I can agree with that, because a close fight is not really a robbery most of the times. Most of the times, okay, we can be argued a draw. But when you look at this Romero and Jackson fight, I really feel like this one was a robbery, especially when they had it unanimous. All three judges had it for Raleigh Romero. So I was really like, what the hell were they watching? And, I was like, what are they seeing where Romero just completely outclassed the guy Marinez, or, even like boxed his way to a decision against the boxer who was really putting on a good showing. Marinez, he's a solid boxer, and he went in there. I know he knows that Raleigh Romero is a Mayweather signed fighter. He's with TMT Promotions. So I'm sure that he had it in his mind that he was already going to be 8 rounds behind in this fight. And he knew that it was kind of a fight where they're kind of feeding me to a potential star. So he couldn't change his game plan overnight, so he did the next best thing. He boxed his ass off. Maybe he feels like, okay, I'm not going to go in there and take a chance to try to punch with the puncher or put myself in danger of getting knocked out by trying to knock him out, go in there swinging crazy, which is the only way I'm going to win this fight. It's the only way I'm going to win this fight by knocking Romero out, which was evident. But he just went in there and did the next best thing. He put on a good boxing clinic, and I felt like I said in my post-fight analysis, I felt like he won like 9 rounds of 3 at most. I looked at it 2 days ago and I said, okay, maybe it was like 9 rounds to 3. Then I said 8. First night I said 8 rounds to 4. Okay, first I'm looking at my I had some notes right here I was looking at. But yeah, I had 8 rounds to 4. And the next time I watched, I had it 9 rounds to 3. I felt like Marinez, he was doing the better work as far as just keeping Romero at a distance with the jab. He was marking him up with the jab in the right hand and jabbing him a lot and throwing the left hook a lot. He was hooking off the jab a lot and really controlling Romero. And Romero at the same time, I feel like he was exposing himself. He was kind of exposing himself as a fighter that had nothing but power, that was just looking for punches with bad intentions. Like he's a kind of guy in the gym, like I've seen in the past, where, they're in the heavy bag and they're just constantly like ripping hard shots, hard shot after hard shot, doing those 3-minute drills or 5-minute drills. They're just throwing these hard punches and they're just grunting, throwing everything hard behind it. And then next thing you know, they're like winded. I think that Romero, he took that type of approach. He was trying to hit Marinez with these hard ass punches with every single thing he was throwing. Like even the jab was hard. Like he was throwing this hard, stiff jab, but he kind of like slide it back. He kind of like slide his hand back. So it was kind of telegraphed. So when a guy kind of throws his punches with bad intentions and you're just standing in front of him, that's definitely going to take a lot of the steam off the punches. He's not really setting up a good counter shot. He's mostly just trying to go in there and hit you hard. So you're like, okay, I know the right hand is coming, so I can maybe take this punch to give 2, or I could go ahead and slip it and counterpunch him. And that's kind of what Marinez was doing. Everything that Romero was throwing, he could take, or he could dodge it, or he could just, counter it real quick and then kind of frustrate Rolling Romero. And Rolly, I feel like, man, like I said, when we got down to that second half of the fight, he was looking a little bit frustrated. He started landing more shots, and I feel like he started sitting down more on his shots whenever Marinez slowed down in the second half, like around 6, 7, and 8. He started landing some good right uppercuts on Marinez and some good left hooks. But again, like I said, like he's throwing with the same steam. He's throwing with that same intensity every single round. So Marinez, he's taking these shots, and then when you think about it, when you get to that latter half of the fight, they're not going to have the same steam. So he's definitely going to take these shots to give off his shots, So I feel like overall, man, Jackson Marinez, he boxed his way to a good decision against a puncher. He was able to figure him out, just stay on the back foot at times, even tie up and just frustrate, the fellow undefeated fighter. And when you looked at the CompuBox numbers, I know a lot of the times those numbers are off, but they were about right. They had Marinez outlanding Romero by like 20-some punches. I think it was like 107-86. That number just sticks out to me. That's just off the top of my head, but I think that's what it was. But I feel like overall, man, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to see your boxer do. Like if I was in Jackson Marinez's corner, I would have said, you boxed to a good decision, man. That was a good fight. But like I said, when there's the powers that may be and they're pushing a certain fighter, then you're already going to kind of be like, oh, I know what's going to happen. You're already kind of shaking your head. And that's what happened. But I just didn't know that it was going to be that blatant where all three judges gave it to Romero. I just thought that was dirty. But after the fight, Romero, he did say that he'd be willing to give him a rematch. But I don't even know if Marinez, I think he did state that he wants it, but would it be any different? Is it going to be any different this time around? Like if he boxes the same way, are they just going to say, okay, this time Romero, he really pulled it off, because there is a lot of things that Romero, he needs to work on, in my opinion, going back and looking at that fight. And then if he wants to go right back into a rematch, I don't think that's going to be good. And I think early on, like I said, I'm careful about how I say exposed, but I do feel like Romero, he kind of exposed some weaknesses in this fight. He had some strengths as far as, trying to stay focused and not going overly frustrated, but there's still a lot of things he needs to work on. He really needs to start working on how he throws those punches. He has to throw some pity pat punches here and there just to kind of open up his opponent, get some feeling out punches, don't throw with the same intensity every time. You can hear him when he's throwing them shots. He's kind of telegraphing whenever he throws those shots, he's making noise. So I just feel like Romero showed us a lot. He really did show us a lot, some good, but a lot of bad, and there's nothing negative to say, it's not knocking him, he can just go back and work on those things. But like I said, if a rematch happens, are they going to give it to the rightful owner this time? I don't know. But yeah, let me know, guys, in the comment section what y'all thought of this fight, man. Like, does Romero stand a chance against guys like Tank and Devin Haney? And again, like after seeing, Rolly talk so much trash about Tank and them on IG Live, I'm like, yeah, but do you got the IQ and the boxing skill to handle a guy like Tank? A precision puncher and a somebody with long reach and superior boxing skill in Devin Haney. You know what I mean? Like those type of guys right there, I was already like, oh no, Romero's not gonna be ready for that. And shoot, to tell you the truth, man, Ryan Garcia, I don't know if he can handle Ryan Garcia right now in a real fight. I mean, we can always talk about the dog. We can always talk about the doghouse. We can always talk about the sparring footage of Ryan Garcia and Rolly throwing down in there, man. But things have changed since then, and I know the opposition that Ryan Garcia has been facing hasn't been the best. But as far as like what he's been stepping in the ring against and, what Romero looked like, I think that fight would just be competitive at this point. It's not like Romero would knock out Ryan Garcia. I don't think that Ryan Garcia would fall for some of those tricks at this point, and especially let's see what Ryan Garcia looks like after Luke Campbell. He's actually taking on a much more experienced opponent than Romero. So if Ryan Garcia gets past somebody like Luke Campbell, if he watches a guy like Luke Campbell, then shoot, I'm sure that he's not going to be calling out Ryan Garcia anytime soon. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just think that Romero, man, like I said, I'll say this last final thing on this topic, but I think that the judges or whoever's behind it in this situation, they should have just played fair and said the decision is going to Jackson Marinez, because a loss right now, I think, would really help out Rolly more so than a gift would, for a lot of reasons, because it would humble him and it would tell him that, there's a lot of things that we got to work on. He could actually go back and say, okay, I didn't pass this test, but why didn't I pass this test? But if you just say, okay, this dude, we're going to give him an A anyways, he won't really know what he needs to work on. When he really gets into that real serious situation, he's going to think everything is all good. It's kind of like going back in the past when they passed some of these football players back in high school or college, they just automatically give them A's. And we're like, shit, I had to work hard for that A, but he just went on and got the A because, he's the quarterback, or he's the wide receiver or whatever. But whenever college is done, and if he doesn't get picked up by the NFL and he goes off into the real world, shit, that dude might not know how to count like he's supposed to. You know what I mean? He might not know how to count or really write checks or, do his taxes or just things like that. You know what I mean? He might not know how to write a resume or his cover letter when he needs to really get a job. So I just feel like there's situations whenever an L needs to be dealt out. You got to give that L out. You just can't always give people these gifts in life, because it's not going to help them. Shit, when I used to fail at something, I'd say, okay, I know why I'm failing. I'll go back and fix that. I wouldn't feel right if somebody just said, okay, I'm going to pass you anyway. That's just me. Even when I'm teaching people now, sometimes things I'm like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it or cut that corner and say, oh yeah, you did good. No, I'm going to tell them, yo, you suck right now. You sucking right now, man. You need to get better. That's something you need to work on. And again, I feel like Romero, if he would have taken this L Saturday night, then he probably would have went back and said, okay, yeah, I didn't look good in that fight. But now that he got the win, he's going to constantly say, like he said in the post-fight interview, he's going to say stuff like, oh yeah, Jackson didn't want to engage. Jackson Marinez, he didn't really want to engage. I wanted to fight. Or, maybe I look good in these certain parts, so I did enough to win. The judges said I won. So he's not really going to see the flaws that he had when it all comes down to it, So I think that's why, man, it's just like, just got to say, hey, man, you just got to bite down and say, I didn't win. I didn't win sometimes. But there's money involved. So, when money's involved, it's going to really change. It's going to really change a lot of mindsets here and a lot of decision making. But yeah, man, let me know what y'all guys think of that whole situation, man. Like I said, I've already spoke on it, in another video, but that was my final thoughts on that. But yeah, man, moving on from here. Last topic, man. I'm going to be talking more about this, so I'm going to go in more on this on the show too as well. But Thurman Crawford versus Keith Thurman, the fight's not happening, so don't get excited. I'm just mean as far as the war of social media and interviews. And, as far as things go with these two, I really wish like this was the UFC right now, because we wouldn't be talking about this fight. This wouldn't be a fantasy fight right now. This fight would have been happening. This fight would be reality right now, man. And I think that, whenever boxing has its freedom, sometimes it can spoil fighters. The freedom that boxing has is a good thing in some ways. When you think of the money, the financial situations the boxers get to be in, it's cool and everything versus the UFC fighters. But then there's a lot of other things that get compromised, like the opponents, the being able to choose who you're going to fight next. That's what really makes it kind of hard for the boxing fan. But Thurman Crawford, as you know, he had went on Twitter and said some things about Keith Thurman. He basically said he wasn't worth, ish right now, as far as what he's done in the ring, and there's really no need to fight him. And then Keith Thurman, he was on Last Stand podcast with Brian Custer. And, he brought up Thurman Crawford to Keith Thurman, and Keith Thurman said, hey, y'all send me a contract, I'll sign it. He said, I'll sign the contract on IG Live. You know, he said he would go to that extent to say, if y'all send me a contract, I'll sign it to fight Terrence Crawford. Basically, is the next fight, because he said that he would give him he said give him a Christmas present, or what he said, like about Thanksgiving or something like to that effect. But you know, I'm taking that as a fight in December, that he would fight as soon as December. You know, and of course, the answer back, you know, Al Heyman and them, they reached out. Al Heyman, Keith Thurman, and them, they reached out to Bob Arum, and of course, they turned down the fight. You know, and it all came down to Keith Thurman wanting too much money. It's something like rumors. He wanted like $10 million for the fight. And my whole thoughts on the situation is, at this point, I'm just like, why can't this fight just happen? You know, why can't they just make the fight? Just give these guys something in a reasonable amount, you know, for what they're both worth as champions or ex-champions. And we'll just call it a fight now. You know, we'll just have this date set and let's just do it. Because in all honesty, I know Keith Thurman, he's not really worth $10 million for this fight against Terrence Crawford, and neither is Terrence Crawford, because they still haven't really solidified themselves as welterweight titans. I mean, they are welterweight champions. I mean, one has a more credible resume than the other. But when you look at these guys, it's still not the Titan fight that Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather was. You know, it's still not the full-on Titan fight that brings in big numbers like Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad was. You know, that unification fight was major. You know, Thomas Hearns versus Sugar Ray Leonard, those are major fights. You know what I mean? Because these guys are doing so much work, you know, out the ring and in the ring to make people want to see them fight. You know, guys like Terrence Crawford, they have a lot of accomplishments, but as far as like him coming into the 147-pound division, he doesn't hold that same weight anymore, because, you know, you got guys like Manny Pacquiao, you got guys like Errol Spence, who's a unified champion. You got even the former champion and Keith Thurman, who continues to, you know, boast that, hey, I fought Manny, I fought Danny, I fought Sean, and I still got a leg to stand on as far as saying I deserve big fights. You know, you got him. Then you got Sean Porter, whose last 5, 6, 7, 8 fights were all tough opposition. You know, so you got all these guys, and then you got Terrence Crawford on the opposite side of the street, like they say. You know, you got him on that side with the Amir Khans, the Mean Machines, and the Jeff Horns. Of course, he has the belt, but, you know, it's kind of like the fighters on this side are outweighing Terrence. So he's not really seen as a Titan either. You know, highly skilled fighter, definitely one of the pound for pound best, but he's still not like the big Titan that he can be, where he's a full on superstar. And I think that he's lacking this in the superstar stardom, and to be able to just call shots like that, because he's not taking these type of fights. You know, when somebody calls you out right now, like Keith Thurman, and says send the contract on IG Live, you're supposed to just go ahead and say, Bob, I want this guy right now. You know, I'm going to get Errol eventually, but I want Keith Thurman right now, because if we do this whole thing on IG Live, it's going to really build us up both. You know, Terrence need to go on IG Live and be like, yo, Keith Thurman won a contract. I'm going to send it to him now. And just like Roy and Mike Tyson, when they signed theirs, they went on IG Live, or they went on live and just went on and signed them, you know? So I'm like, why can't they do the same thing? You know, that was a perfect setup to me. And I think that setup, like I said, is going to give Crawford more fans, because Keith Thurman holds more weight than Crawford thinks. You know what I mean? And like I said, I call it like I see it when it comes to champions. You know, in the beginning, I was a big supporter of Keith Thurman, but when he started dodging the Errol Spence fight, I was a little disappointed in him. But the energy he's been coming with lately, I'm liking this energy, because now he's bringing champions up again. You know, I know he wanted that Manny rematch, but in the meantime, he's willing to fight somebody like Terrence Crawford. And he's really putting Crawford on the spot by really saying that Crawford's not a credible welterweight. You know, no, to me, those are fighting words. You know, so when on Terrence Crawford's side, like I said, to build his stock up too, and to build himself up as that warrior, you know, you're supposed to answer that whenever somebody talk that trash. So to me, I don't know what everything. I don't know everything that's going on behind closed doors as far as with Top Rank and how they're saying that fights can't happen with PBC. But to me, Andre Ward said this in the past. He said it doesn't really come down to who's promoting you. It comes down to the fighters always bugging their managers and bugging their promoters about who they want to fight. Because he said eventually they'll fight. You know, if you continue to say, I want this guy, no, I'm not fighting him, I want this guy, you'll eventually get that fight. You know, Andre Ward's already put it out there and said that before. You know, he said, if you want this person and you continue to make it known, whether it's on social media or whether you're calling that guy out personally, you continue to tell your team that I'm not fighting unless it's this guy, it's going to happen. So, you know, Terrence, right now, it's not slim pickings in the welterweight division. You know, it's not slim pickings. There's plenty of guys out there. I mean, of course, Spencer Garcia is tied up, and Sean Porter's tied up right now with the Formella fight, which was another fight I think could have happened even before then. You know, but Kell Brook is out there, which Kell Brook, you know, that's a fight that I don't really want to see. But if it was going to happen, I would take it because, you know, that's still a name that's tied to the, you know, the Sean Porters and the Errol Spencers. But the Keith Thurman fight right now just makes so much more sense, especially whenever, you know, Keith Thurman calls you out and said you're not like a credible welterweight champion. You know, to me, like I said, that's the best lead up into getting into these PBC waters with these champions and former champions, you know. Because again, man, Crawford, he's really not in a position to wait for the big one, because if we really want to dissect resumes right now, Thurman's name and his resume really, really holds a lot of weight because he has the Dannies, you know, he has the Sean Porter's on his resume, the Manny Pacquiao. Even though he lost, it was a close fight on paper, so that counts for something. You know, he even has the Jose Zito Lopez on his record. You know, and that was a fight that I said I wanted to see Bud fight, either him or Jesse Vargas when he came up to welterweight. You know, that was a fight I wanted to see Bud in. Even the caliber of that opponent. You know, so Keith Thurman has a lot of welterweight, a lot of good welterweights on his resume to make us say this guy is still a guy that can really boost me up. You know, so for Crawford and them to turn him down for whatever reason, I don't think that's a good idea, you know. And we're really going to hold Keith Thurman to those words, because Keith Thurman actually went on an interview and said, I'll fight you. Of course, I'll fight you. If you send the contract, I'll fight you. So whatever the money situation is right now, they just need to get that settled right. And me personally, I think the money should just be 50-50. You know, since Bud does have a belt, you know, I think that he deserves his part, and it should just be all evenly distributed at this point, because Keith is the former champion. You know, he doesn't hold the belt. He holds weight, but not a belt. So Crawford does hold a belt. He holds a portion of what's going to, you know, make them unified, you know, so fully unified. So just make the money 50-50 and make the fight happen at this point, you know, because the more and more I think about this fight, I don't really want the Kell Brook and Terrence Crawford fight. I don't want that fight now. I want Crawford and Thurman to fight. And I think a lot of fans out there, people listening right now, they need to really petition for that and post that up more, you know. But wouldn't it be something too, whenever you think about it like this? Okay, let's say Terrence Crawford takes this fight with Keith Thurman, man. Like, say Bud beats Keith Thurman. Then he would be able to say, Terrence Crawford would be able to say, I got one of the guys that you couldn't get on your resume, Spence. You know, he could actually say that to Errol. You know, he could say, yo, I was actually able to get that guy that you couldn't get at some point. You know, I know he didn't have any belts, but I was able to actually fight that guy. And, you know, to some extent, since Errol was chasing Keith Thurman for so long, it would kind of rub him in the wrong way. Even though he doesn't hold the belts, like I said, I think it would still kind of make him feel a certain way where, damn, man, like Crawford, he got Thurman before I did. You know, you got to think of that too. Like that would be somewhat of a build up to the potential Crawford Spence fight. And then think about it too, man. If Thurman won, say if Thurman won, Thurman beat Terrence Crawford for his WBO belt, then finally we would get Spence versus Thurman. And then we would be closer to getting a full unification to undisputed. Because then Thurman and Spence, you can't deny the Thurman Spence fight from there. You know, when Thurman get that other belt, then you know for that, you know, no doubt that Errol Spence is going to be on that neck to get that WBO belt. You know what I mean? So every which way you look, Crawford and Thurman makes sense. That fight really does make sense. You know, belt to no belt. And fighters know that. They always try to say, oh, this guy don't hold no belt. That's why there's no credibility. Shit, you know, there's been some great non-title fights in the past. You know what I mean? So it's all in what the fans want to see and what it leads to, you know. And it does matter when you think about resumes. You know, I always say that, you know, resumes can outweigh skills all day long. You know what I mean? Whenever people see that you've been fighting the best, they want to see that guy get the most shine over the guy whose skills haven't really been tested. You know what I mean? So final thoughts on that. I want Terrence Crawford and Keith Thurman to fight. I want them to go on IG Live, build their fan bases up even more so for Terrence Crawford, because, you know, he needs to kind of get out there and push himself as this welterweight force. You know what I mean? To be that Titan. And because, you know, Thurman already got the mouth on him. You know, he's always talking. So they both need to get on IG Live and sign these contracts at the same time and just make this fight happen. There ain't no other fights that make more sense than this fight right now. You know, while Manny's still trying to figure out what he's doing, and while Spencer Garcia are already booked to fight, Sean Porter's already booked to fight, Ugas, I think he's already booked to fight. So in the meantime, Crawford and Thurman, that's all that makes sense. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comment section what y'all think of that. Yeah, that's all I got today, man. You know, I want to go ahead and get this episode in. Like I said, there was just so much going on in boxing that I wanted to speak on. And like always, like I say, you know, just make sure y'all subscribe here, you know, and shoot me a message, you know, in the comment section. Let me know if there's anything else y'all want me to talk about. But in my final thoughts, like I said, a big part of boxing and MMA and combat sports in general is just discipline, man. It's just discipline. You really need that discipline if you want to move forward in life. You know, whatever it is. Like I said, if it's trying to make weight, if it's trying to pass a class, you know, to get the results you want, you got to stay dedicated to it, and you got to find those alternatives to get you where you need to be. You know, if one thing isn't available, you need to make those adjustments, find whatever it is you need to get there. You know, you think about it, like right now with this pandemic going on, there was fighters I talked to, you know, getting ready for fights. Their gyms are closed. So they say, hey, there ain't no excuses. I'm going to build me a home gym. You know what I mean? So to get the results they want, they said, okay, I got to do this. I got to go this route to get what I want. So, you know, it's all about discipline. You know, if you stay disciplined, then you'll get where you need to be. But yeah, man, that's all I got on this episode, guys. Like I always say, make sure y'all subscribe here, Combo Breaker 99, and also subscribe to the boxing channel, The Jab Effect. You know, that's where I post more boxing talk over there. And follow me on Instagram at Combo Breaker 99, at The Jab Effect with my partner Boxing P, and at All Boxing Everything. But I'll post that stuff right over here, man, just so y'all know. But yeah, I'll be back with another episode later on, focusing on women's MMA, guys. Like always, Combo Breaker 99. I'm out. Peace.